Today's top news: Bitcoin dominance remains at 60%. Fear and greed in the crypto sector is still in the fear zone despite rising stocks, and the altcoin season is still a long way off. Additionally, Bitcoin is up, while Casper, XRP and Ethernet Computer are not as strongly in the green as Bitcoin. And the news of the day: US-Iran tensions are easing, while Bitcoin has conquered the 80,000 mark. All this and more in this video. Yes, hello and welcome to the new format, the news of the week, where I go through everything with you. Here we really go through all the numbers, data and facts in detail, as always data-driven and structured. Yes, Bitcoin dominance is at 58.4% and is actually still rising. The Bitcoin price is also stronger than that of altcoins. By the way, the market cap of crypto compared to the stock market still has a huge amount of catching up to do. So the potential of crypto remains massive. At the moment though, it's Bitcoin season, as you can see here. No altcoin season yet, that's still a long way off, and the fear and greed index is extremely interesting. In the crypto sector, we're at 4, while in the stock sector, we're at greed with 68. So that's also extremely interesting, and it also reflects the behavior of retail investors who are more likely to get involved in areas like artificial intelligence, for example, through stocks rather than through crypto. So in that respect, you really have to be careful at the moment. The crypto sector is currently not in focus. Then the oil sector, for example, oil is rising slightly again. Gold is just slightly up compared to yesterday. Now over the weekend, stocks and so on can't be traded, but crypto can. Silver is up 0.28%, uranium is unchanged, and gas is slightly down. Then the macro data: Nasdaq has gone up 1.71%, the euro is slightly stronger against the US dollar, not by much. Dow Jones and S&P 500 are slightly down, and the DAX is once again quite weak, clearly in the red. Then the top 5 stocks and top 5 cryptos. Nvidia, of course, is once again leading among the stocks. These are the last 24 hours as of yesterday. Meta and Tesla are also quite strong, as are Microsoft and Google, of course. With cryptos, it's quite interesting. NIL is up 50%, DOT is also strong with 4.7%, XRP at 3.2%, and Solana as well as AVEX are around 2.8 to 2.4%. So you can already see that the altcoins are slowly getting a bit stronger, even though this hasn't yet signaled the start of an altcoin season. Then let's take a look at the Bitcoin inflows from the ETF, which is also quite interesting. 46 million. Here, BlackRock is clearly leading with positive numbers, but all the others are more in the negative. ARK is still positive, and overall, things are generally more on the positive side, which is good. Then we have the Fed Watch. Currently, the effective interest rate is at 3.63%. The next meeting is on June 17th, and the chance of a cut is at 28%, but a pause is still at over 70 or at 70%. So I also assume that nothing major will happen. Then the trending penny stocks, also quite interesting. There are a few interesting ones among them that I actually haven't had on my radar myself yet. I also always analyze stocks and penny stocks now. Trending altcoins, Lab among others, Nillion, Polkadot trending again, also interesting, right? And of course, actually XRP. So all in all, there are already very positive signs. Maybe not yet in the crypto market, but especially in the stock market. Let's see if that spills over into the crypto sector as well. Of course, I would wish that for everyone. And by the way, if you don't want to recognize shards or patterns yourself, but want AI to do it for you, then check out ChartScout. It's extremely interesting. I actually use it myself because I don't want to analyze so many shards at the same time. For patterns, I want it to be done automatically. For example, you just get a notification on Telegram. You can take a look at everything yourself. You can find more information on my website under my recommendations because it's a tool I actually use personally. But now let's definitely move on to chart analysis with the 10x indicator. And now we're already in chart analysis. First, let's take a look at the Bitcoin chart. Weekly chart first, because that always gives me an overall picture. Interesting, we had here, this was on March 2nd. We had a big green dot on the weekly chart. You have to imagine that's of course very significant, the weekly chart. The lower the time frame, the less meaningful it is. But here, after that formed, if you think about it, it was roughly here. After that, we went up by 28%. Here, it looks like we're now slowly entering a middle range, so on a long time frame. From this perspective, there's still a lot of room to the upside. So theoretically, it could even go up to here, 90,000, 85,000. Yes, here, there, into these areas before we might see a bigger correction again. So on a long time frame, weekly, it looks positive for now. But now let's take a look at the daily chart for Bitcoin. What does it look like there? Yeah, on the daily chart, it doesn't look so optimal. Of course, we've had a massive increase here, as I said. And now we've formed a small red dot. You always have to be a bit careful with that ultimately, because it means there's a possible bearish trend reversal. So it could be that we go down a bit further now, but you can already see on the chart that it's starting to look quite bullish again. And that maybe we've now seen the local bottom here after all. Now let's go one time frame lower again, which is also extremely interesting. What does it look like there? In the short term, as I said, we had a massive increase here. Then two big red dots on the 4-hour time frame. After that, we were also sold off. Well, that was roughly right around there. Yeah, it was exactly about 3.22%, I believe. What does the situation look like for Bitcoin now? Personally, I would be cautious. We're almost at the upper range here in the overbought area. We need to be careful there. So it could keep going up here, but then we'll slowly get into areas where a big red dot might form, meaning the overbought zone. And when it goes down and we come back into these areas here, these lower areas where a big green dot forms, then I look at further analyses and see whether I ultimately go along with Bitcoin. If DCA enters again, but let's keep going for now. So what does the market cap of the altcoins look like? Of course, Bitcoin is excluded from that. Yes, we saw that this was the all-time high, and then we had quite a drop here. Up to that point, it was 51%, and even now it's still about minus 40%. Yes, that is correct. And it also looks like we have a very clear resistance line forming right here on the chart. And once more, there, now again. So it is starting to look quite dangerous for altcoins. As I said, I would generally be cautious at the moment. But now let's move on to the detailed analyses. Ethereum, Solana, XRP, Casper, but also Internet Computer. Let's start with Ethereum. Similar image. Just like with Bitcoin, we have a small red dot here, which indicates a short-term bearish trend reversal, possibly long-term as well. What does it look like on the weekly chart? A similar picture as with Bitcoin. We have formed a large green dot, which means potentially more bullish and that there is still room to move up. Exactly here with Ethereum as well, I would personally wait until we reach these areas. Otherwise, you end up letting yourself be guided by FOMO at the moment, which is never good. Let's move on to Solana. Solana is extremely interesting and has behaved differently than Ethereum and Bitcoin because here we had a small green dot that formed, and after that we also moved upwards. That was roughly here. 12%. So Solana is fundamentally strong. But here too, we're slowly moving above the overbought area where you definitely need to be careful. At the same time, here again, we have a zone of resistance. Will we break through it? I'm rather skeptical. A lot of retail investors are ultimately moving into stocks, especially in the AI sector. The crypto sector is currently more out of favor. Let's move on to XRP. By the way, this past weekend I made another video about it, which I will publish. That will come out on Sunday. Today, or depending on when I release this video, there will also be an analysis of Tesla. Exactly, also extremely exciting. I'll link it for you up here. So let's keep going now. What does it look like for XRP? Also exciting there. Small green dot. Bullish possible trend reversal. Let's see how that develops. But here as well. Always roughly here, as I said, I mentioned that again in the video. Always resistance. Can we break through this one now? To be honest, I don't really think so. A similar picture here as well. Personally, I would wait here. Then let's move on to Casper. I talk a lot about Casper simply because I see it as one of the strongest, if not the strongest, proof of work coins on the entire market. But let's take a look at the current situation now. Here too we had a small green dot and then moved upwards. 15%, that's decent. We've already had a massive increase here. So theoretically there's still room to go up here, upwards. But even there, we're not in the middle range, we're slowly entering the overbought zone, which is never really optimal. But let's take a look at the weekly chart. There too, it's more bullish on the weekly. But with Casper, things look a bit different because it's more of a low cap. So it's an area with much more volatility. So this is also a dangerous zone here. In my opinion, nothing exciting is changing with Casper in the long term either. At the moment though, I would still be cautious. Next, Internet Computer. Internet Computer has had a massive increase here if you take a look at it. Yes, 250%, but then also a big red dot, massive crash. Here, by the way, also quite interesting. Big red dot, massive crash. At the moment, also quite interesting. Small green dot went back up again, 75%, just like that. So, the demand for Internet Computer is there, but it fluctuates extremely. Personally, for those who know my videos, I also find Internet Computer extremely interesting from a technological perspective. I'll link my analysis of Internet Computer up here for you, also quite interesting. And before we continue, one more piece of information for you. In my 10x Insider community, which, by the way, is completely free, check it all out, the link is below. In the video description, I found something interesting. Let's switch over there. Yes, these are the 10x Insiders. This is the community. It's on Whoop. If you use the link, as I said, you can get it for free. On the Whoop app, you'll be kept in the loop because whenever I, for example, post news updates or chart analyses, you'll get a notification on your phone right away. For example, just recently on Sunday, I shared some news here. Tomorrow, I'll be sharing news again about the current situation. This is in English now. This is the English channel. But of course, I also have it in German. So I always share here as well. News updates from the chart about the 10x indicator. It's also extremely interesting if you're just interested in staying up to date, especially with Bitcoin. And here, Altcoin Watch is also quite exciting. There I always share altcoins that I have found and analyzed. Of course, I always share them first in my 10x Elite. But here I also provide further information about them. Also extremely exciting. This way you get some, let's say, information on analyses and interesting altcoins. Or also stocks that I analyze and find, also here in the 10x Insider. But now, shall we go back? Back to the damage analysis. As I said, if you want to join the 10x Insider, it's completely free added value for you. All information is in the video description. So we're back to Internet Computer. Let's take another look at the weekly chart. Also quite interesting here, by the way, a big green dot had formed. Just recently here, a small green dot. So structurally, it's quite positive from a chart perspective. But as I said, we're slowly entering the overbought zone again here, where I personally would be cautious. Yes, let's go back to the dashboard. What else is interesting about today? Let's take another look at one more thing, 30 days. You can see that altcoins are generally rather weak. That also fits with the 4. And that we're currently in Bitcoin season. I'm linking 1 or 2 analyses here for you that are extremely interesting. Otherwise, feel free to subscribe to the channel for more news updates like this, where I always take a data-driven approach. Thanks for watching. And then I'll see you in the next video.